Colin Moriarty came out with a video, and I think it's so ironic that he's the one to come out with the video, mind you, because he's the one that went like super viral, speaking out against the whole. Oh, there's no way it's $7 million for consultancy. Anyway, I just thought it was ironic because he's coming out with a crazy number now. But Colin Moriarty came out with a video. Apparently, has an insider source over at the Concord development team, and he is stating that according to this insider source, that Sony and Firewalk combined, but more so Sony, I think, towards the end. Well, it was more so Firewalk spent $200 million developing the game for up to 7.5 years, ended up getting barely to an alpha state, wasted $200 million, and then PlayStation Studios bought up this game from Playable Monsters, the people who used to own them, and then decided that the game probably Monsters. I'm sorry, not Playable. Sorry, fucking white privilege. But no, it apparently the game was in such a terrible state that they decided that they need to spend another $200 million in order to get it into a playable state within a year and outsource the development of the game to multiple studios, including Firewalk, who was working on the game as well, because apparently a company of 150 employees at Firewalk was unable to make a game after 7 years of development and $200 million. So it led to a insane clusterfuck. So we're going to go over that video. We'll react to it. But first, any thoughts, Atreus?
Yeah,
See your hands up.
Real quick before we even get to that.
It would seem that many different people have interpreted.
I don't have the privilege here. Go ahead.
No.
Many different people have interpreted this video, from what I can tell, the wrong way. Because you said Firewalk invested, they spent 200. Almost all of that 400 million was spent by Sony.
Well, so the first 200 million was a mix between Firewalk and Sony.
Right,
but nobody knows how much. Nobody knows how much each side spent, though.
Nobody knows, but like we got to think about it. Let's assume Sony only spent 50 million on Concord. Where would a company like probably Monsters or Firewalk find $150 million? No,
Atreus is right. Like whatever probably Monsters spent on it was part of the purchase price of buying them. So whatever Sony spent was including what probably Monsters lost so far on it.
Even some of these, even like something like Dustborn, I mean, like the grants that they got were substantial, but they wasn't 20 million, 50 million, $60 million.
But so Sony wasn't even involved until 7.5 years.
But that's not what he said in the video.
No, they first invested but didn't buy it flat out, I think.
Exactly. And that's why I told Kenda, I believe what happened was they saw the concept of the game and what they wanted it to be, invested a significant amount of money, and when they saw their results, they no longer trusted Firewalk Studios to do it on their own without their own supervision. So they acquired the studio and invested another 200 million into it. I believe that's what happened.
No, but don't you think it's a little bit strange though? Because let's say, okay, after 7 years of development, you have a game that's barely alpha, right? That's what they said, barely alpha, barely not even in a retail playable state. So after 7 years of investment in development time, you think it's a good idea to buy that studio?
If you invested $200 million and you think you're getting your next Overwatch, I guess so.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you just outsource the development instead of buying the studio and then outsourcing the development?
That's an excellent question. Exactly.
Why would you buy the studio that is clearly incompetent? That's right. Really I just think it's a little bit strange. That's all I'm saying.
I think honestly, Hypno, I think Sony was desperate and they saw this as the next big thing, and they're like, "We can fix it." Like 8-Bit Eric with Every Broken Woman, we can fix it. Like that's the way Sony looked at this.
I've seen people say that they thought it would be
nice.
They thought it would be the new Star Wars. So maybe they thought under their control they can mold those Firewalk Studio people to do something good, and maybe they'll supplement it with their own team. And they thought it would be the next Star Wars, which it wasn't. Unless
the business strategy doesn't make sense,
Disney
though.
Star Wars.
Yeah, Disney, exactly. It's Disney Star Wars.
Is this a write-off? Is this like a write-off operation or what?
I think that's what it turned into, but I think like the whole mentality of this is the future, this is the direction, it's a live service future for gaming. These executives saw the money that these big corporations were getting, and they're like, we want a piece of that pie. Let's buy this studio because we're invested with them already. We already know what they're doing, and they aren't doing it as good as we know we can do it. So let's buy them and then outsource to fix it. And then we'll put it out. We have Sony's backing. We got our advertising, marketing, and it'll just work. But the one thing they forgot is that you can't just put something out and then expect people to embrace it en masse. You have to let it organically grow, and people have to take to it. Like, you can't just be like, here's a game and shove it in someone's face and be like, fucking eat this. Like, no, gamers don't like that. Like,
I think this is more just about like just sheer incompetence as far as talent goes.
Yeah,
I think this is
100%.
simply an industry that has been infected. Like we said, like this is the deep tissue issue that we've been talking about when it comes to DEI and diversity and stuff like that. See, people are always addressing this surface level. Oh, you don't want to see a black person in a video game? No, bitch. I'm seeing the morons you guys hired because of diversity and inclusion behind closed doors. 8 years of development, and on the 7th year after $200 million, what Sony saw was sheer incompetence. And they thought that if they just threw money at it, they could get it to, which, to be fair, it's playable, right? Like it's not like a terrible game. Like, I mean,
mechanically, it's actually very fine.
Right. So
very fine.
But it's just retreading the same road
hilarious.
that already exists. Like, it doesn't break new ground anywhere. So why?
You took the words out of my mouth.
But to do 8 years of development just to end up at very fine, come on, bro. I mean, like, this is,
imagine.
I was not defending it. I was just saying that make the
no,
the
I know you
criticism-
weren't. I'm just saying your reaction is perfect because it's genuine. That's what I'm saying.
It would have been
It's a
cheaper for
genuine like
Sony
thing.
Here we go. It would have been cheaper for Sony to go to Blizzard and be like, hey, can we get the source code for Overwatch and we're just going to reskin it and we'll pay you $200 million for just that. We just want to see that.
I'm curious. I'm curious that, like, if they get audited, like, where are those monies going to? Like, is it actually going to the
Dude,
game?
I have an answer for that. There's talks about this becoming free to play, and I think that's bullshit. If they make this game free to play, they will not be able to use it as a tax write-off, because making it free to play, they would have to add microtransactions, additional money-making endeavors to recoup some sort of profit on this, or attempt to. So this is going to be a write-off, and we are never going to see this game again.
I after hearing Leon, that just convinced me. Like, I don't think we're going to see it again.
This is a
I don't think so.
gigantic.
Well, that's really shady. Like, I would be wanting to know where all that money's gone, because, like,
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
Like-
I need, yeah,
like someone's putting a lot of money in their pocket.
exactly. Like,
walking
where is this liquidity ultimately flowing? Sometimes
Here's
I
where
have.
it's going. Here's where it's going, because this is something I wanted to touch on. I'm glad I'm going to transition into this, just like Leon can transition.
Just someone say transition.
Anticipated. Nice.
Because you're white. There you go. Privilege.
So I don't know if you heard the end credits. This is kind of floating around Twitter this morning. That the end credits,
There's a button to celebrate
no. But before we even get to the button, the end credits are over 1 hour long.
Get the fuck out of here.
What?
the end credits to
And
what?
if you do not believe me, I researched it myself. There is a YouTube video where
Please.
someone recorded it. And
Wait, can
you
I guess
load it
something,
up right
Smash?
now.
Can I guess something really quick?
Is it skippable?
Do they have their pets in the credit scene and whatnot?
The
Probably.
pets?
You know, like the
I don't know,
Wokies,
but
you
that
know what
girl
the
that went
Wokies
by
do,
the
right?
professor, like mandated.
Oh, she wrote prof.
It says, yeah, she wrote prof.
But no,
whatever her name was.
But that's not a joke. There are some game developers that they have like a section for their friends, family, pets. I'm not even fucking joking.
You know what? I feel like that's a Mr. Beast circa 2000 video where you just sit there and watch it for an hour, and that's your video. Like, I don't. You got to get those things on your eyes where you just keep them open. And
That's
that
a
was
really
great.
long obituary.
Right.
It's just wow. Wow. Crazy. What I was going to say before is that, again, the business strategy is just not making sense to me. Maybe I'm just crazy. I don't know. But my thing is, okay, Sony's involved in that initial $200 million investment for 7 and some odd years. All right, fine. Then at the point that they say, okay, the game is not playable, what the fuck are you doing? I don't understand. Why is there a decision to say we're going to buy the studio when they bought the studio and then outsourced the work anyway? Why did that purchase happen when they could have just said, you know what, listen,
Shady.
we're already invested in this. Let us just outsource the work because we're gonna do it anyway. Where
know
does
what that's
that
called?
purchase come into play? How does
Money
that benefit
laundering.
anybody?
Yeah, that's
money
what, that's what I'm saying. To me, this.
Huge. I was talking to someone earlier, and they said, "Is it mismanagement? Is it money laundering?" I was like, "No, it's mismanaged money laundering. Like, it's."
Yeah,
Probably.
And somebody said it's in the chat. Somebody said it's to remove competition. But my thing is, if
No.
you saw a game that was trash after 7 years of development, do you really think you have competition? Like, why would you Why would you buy that studio?
I do think that Sony thinks that little of themselves. Like, oh, these guys are as good as us, and we already suck.